It's the show you've all been waiting for. Yes, it's the Steelers Sunday Night Q&A. My name is Jeremy Betts, back with you again for another week, and I've got a special guest with me, part of the SCN Homies podcast. Got my man Pay. Pay, what's up?
What's up, Jeremy? How's it going?
It's going great. I've been excited to get a chance to do a podcast with you sometime, and now that I'm on the Q&A and I'm rotating guests, it seemed like a good chance. So happy to have you on board.
Happy to be here.
Good deal. Tell us a little bit about your feelings after another successful preseason outing for the Steelers. And are you taking this with a grain of salt, or are you fully on board this Pittsburgh Steelers team so far?
I can answer the first question right off the bat. I am on board as far as drastic improvement for the Steelers for this coming up season.
Hey.
I don't think, for every team in this division has made considerable steps in the right direction as it relates to where they were last season, where they needed to get to, and the offseason have been, home runs for everyone. But I think if you had to rank them all, Pittsburgh's had the best offseason in the whole AFC North. So with that and the expected growth you have from your young guys in the offense, sky's the limit. Now, how that relates to wins and losses, it all depends on how the ball bounces.
Absolutely. This team is going to have ample opportunity, I think, and they've got the playmakers now. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be fun to watch. And I think we've seen glimpses of something great. And maybe the Steelers team is a little bit ahead of schedule from maybe what most might have thought, bringing along a brand new quarterback who was just a rookie last year. Hard to believe, given some of the things that have been said about him this offseason by his own teammates and by people outside the organization as well. I'm excited, and I think for the most part, every Steelers fan is on board with this team. So very much an exciting time. Let's pop up a question here from a guy you know well, Pay. Tate popping in here with a good question. If you had one choice to watch the game opener, San Fran versus Pitt, are you taking pizza or wings? What you taking there, Pay?
So I'm a hometown Chicago guy. You can never go wrong with pizza. Pizza's in our. I mean, if you ask any Chicago person, maybe 3 out of 4 of them will tell you pizza's in their blood. Tomato sauce instead of the red, the red stuff.
Yeah, man.
But for me, I'm gonna go wings just for my diet. The way my diet is set up, I'm gonna try to do as less bread as possible. Give me the wings all day. That
high protein, low carb option, right? Good deal. Do you sauce them up or do you eat them dry?
Oh no! I if I can get some sauce on my wings, that's perfect. Naked wings. I don't want to call it abomination, but sometimes it's a mean to an end. But I prefer give me something hot. You go to Buffalo Wild Wings. I want the hottest thing you got on the menu. Ghost pepper. I don't care. Give it to me.
I'm a straight barbecue guy for the most part. If it's too hot, I can't enjoy it. So I tend to take it down a notch when I'm out at a restaurant. At least I want to be able to eat what I pay for. Absolutely. So let's jump in here to some Steelers questions. We got one from a regular listener, Afton Fored. Pay, this is directed at you, man. Where did you have the Steelers finishing in the division? Maybe give us your thoughts from before preseason started and to now. Has it changed at all?
Hey, Afton, part of the homie nation. I see you. So first part, where do I see the Steelers finishing? So we did a quick breakdown, expectations when the schedule was released. I think I had the Steelers tying for second, or maybe one game behind Baltimore. At that point, what's that? April, I believe that's where I had them.
Okay.
Now that the preseason started and we've got 2 weeks in, we got these joint practices. We had a couple of preseason games. If I'm to just encapsulated at that point in time, I think the Steelers are a little bit further ahead than Baltimore right now, just because Baltimore is installing a new offense and they've had their growing pains over the last couple of weeks since joint practices has started, and and they're also dealing with a couple of injuries. But Pittsburgh, all systems go so far. So it will be not being truthful to believe that they're a little bit further ahead, at least at this point in time. So heading into the season, I expect Pittsburgh to be a little bit further ahead, a little bit have a better September, maybe even a better first half of August. I mean, not August, but October.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, especially when you consider the schedule. And I think that that's going to play a big role into this as well, especially if you're talking about the Cincinnati Bengals compared to the Steelers, with them having to take on a first-place AFC schedule along with some of the tougher games on their matchup against their own division. It's going to be tough for them to handle all that and still maintain their kind of vice grip from the last 2 years on the division, especially when you consider that the Steelers and the Browns, also you can throw them in there, are rising and maybe a little bit more established than they were a couple of years ago now. And so I tend to agree with you. Andrew Wilbar and myself on the Steelers Fix, we're going to be doing our predictions show that we do every year, either this coming week or the week after. And when we do, don't be surprised if those Pittsburgh Steelers are given a division title by one of us. We'll see. Not going to say who yet, but you can probably guess just based on.
I don't think I would be surprised at all.
Sure. So hey, we're a little bit of homies ourselves, homers, if you will, sometimes here at Steel Curtain Network, but that's okay. We're fans, and we're here to talk about the Steelers. So let's talk about another question here. Who's forgotten? We didn't forget you, man. And your question, should Joey Porter Jr. start against San Francisco? Pay, what do you think about this one?
From my eyes, I think he hasn't had the best camp so far, just to me. But he's still a rookie. And it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if he doesn't start. I think Pittsburgh does have the room for 3 starters as corners. I mean, most teams stay in nickel package most of the game anyway. So should JPJ actually, get starter snaps? I don't think San Francisco's offense would call for that for most of the case. But so if he does, that's fine. I mean, if he doesn't, he's a rookie. It's no big deal if he doesn't or not. At some point of the season, you expect him to, though. You don't have to be week 1.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you this, kind of to piggyback for the San Francisco game, since that's what's coming up, and they're a big time opponent. I mean, they're an NFC Championship representative this last year, and maybe if you ask San Francisco fans, they were a quarterback away from maybe going to a Super Bowl. I still think the Eagles probably win that game, but you can make the argument that way. So San Francisco, a tough team, but if you're focusing on a specific part of San Francisco that you need to stop, it's got to be this Christian McCaffrey led run game. And then, what Kyle Shanahan does off of that. If you eliminate the run, then it's going to be hard for him to do anything else. Is that how you see it as well?
Of course. San Francisco is a zone blocking team. They're going to run the ball on you. They're going to come at you. Know how they're going to come at you. They're going to run the ball at you off misdirections, mind you, and then try to hit you over the top with a play action down the seams. That's exactly how they're going to get. They're not going to open it up 4 wide, anything like that. So that goes back to my answer. It's not a necessity if you don't have your first defensive guy drafted out there. He'll get some snaps. Does he need to start? Probably doesn't need to, just based on the team that you're playing. As you said, they are a run first team, and they are very good at that. So coming to the game, looking forward, have the right personnel for it. Yeah,
I think you're talking about a beginning of the season where the Steelers are going to start Patrick Peterson and Levi Wallace on the outside. I mean, that's just unless one of them gets hurt, and then you're forced to throw Joey Porter Jr. into the fire right there. But by mid-season, that could look totally different. I think the Steelers might be better off in a situation where JPJ is just so good you can't keep him off the field at outside corner, and then you can just bump Patrick Peterson inside. And I think that would be the best case scenario for this Steelers secondary, is that JPJ just comes along real smooth, looks really good, and gets out there opposite Levi Wallace, because I think Levi Wallace kind of locks down another side. He's not going to move inside that much. but Patrick Peterson could benefit from a move inside, where he can use his experience and maybe not have to rely on some of the quickness and agility that he may have lost a little bit of a step of as his career has come and is now on the downward side of that. I mean, obviously he has, as Mike Tomlin likes to say, he has fewer days ahead of him than behind him. So, but it's going to be interesting to see. We're going to see a whole lot of rotation, like to your point, out of these guys. It's not just going to be two guys on the field all the time, because the Steelers live in that sub-package football a lot. And so exactly. Joey Porter Jr. is going to be asked to play significant snaps very early this season. So let's bring up another question here from Vinny Aguakun. It's about the Atlanta Falcons preseason game coming up this Thursday. Do you think starters play the entire first half against Atlanta Thursday? I'm going to say no here. Probably not. But what's your thought?
I wouldn't expect that. No.
Yeah.
Just to answer the question, do I think it? No, I would not expect it. Could it happen? I would be floored if Tomlin, a veteran coach, who's this is his 17th season? I don't think he's going to put his guys out there.
Yeah.
Anybody playing the third preseason game, more than likely he's fighting for a job. If you locked up the starting spot, you're not playing.
So you think it's kind of just keeping everybody prepped, make sure that it's a mindset thing more or less, but you think he'll probably rest the key starting guys on both sides of the ball, is what you're saying there.
Yeah, no point in playing them at this point. It's third preseason game. We're getting ready for the season at that point.
Yeah, you've seen what you need to see out of these starters, I think, especially on the defensive side. Don't go putting Cam Hayward and TJ Watt out there against Atlanta on Thursday on a short week, on a road trip. Doesn't feel like a great idea to me, but we'll see. We'll see how Tomlin likes to handle it. Maybe he wants his team hitting the ground running a little bit more in 2023 than maybe we've seen. It's going to be interesting to see. Based on this, then, do you have somebody that sticks out to you as needing a really big game in week 3 of the preseason to kind of make this roster or earn a spot that he doesn't have?
No one really comes to mind. There's a quarterback that's on the roster that I have a very much familiarity with.
Okay.
I don't think he's all that great, but it would be shocking to me if he did make the team. So I would want to pretty much pull him out of that conversation. For the most part, I don't think there's going to be any surprises, at least from my perspective. Anybody getting cut?
Yeah.
So if I saw someone playing that third game, that would be a shock to me. They're like, he's on that cut line. It would probably be maybe one of the linebackers that was pulled up in the offseason. Probably in that space, but no one big names.
Sure. I think about the wide receiver room a little bit. Maybe Cody White versus Gunnar Olszewski for the 6th wide receiver or something like that. I don't know. There's some thoughts there. I don't think Hakeem Butler's making this team now at this point after having not played this last week. And it's a long shot for him to make the roster, especially with some of the struggles he's had in camp. So I think maybe wide receiver might be the only spot where I would be like somebody who if somebody had a huge game, maybe they jump ahead of somebody else. But you're kind of right. I don't think there's going to be many surprises this season for the Steelers as far as who's getting cut and who's not. There's going to be a tough decision, especially along the defensive line and at wide receiver. But I don't think any direction they go that you would necessarily be surprised with the outcome, so to speak. So let's move on to another question here from Gene Smith. Who's the best backup quarterback in the AFC North? So let's think about this here. We've got Dorian Thompson-Robinson in Cleveland, who's looked pretty good this preseason. We've obviously got Mitch Trubisky in Pittsburgh. Is it Tyler Huntley or maybe Josh Johnson in Baltimore? And then in Cincinnati, man, who's the backup in Cincinnati? I'm having trouble placing. Is it Jake Browning? Is that who it is?
I think all Cincinnati fans know his name now. I don't know it, but
Sure.
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
And I'm going to just default to the guy who made the Pro Bowl last season. Tyler.
Okay, sure.
I don't know. I mean, that was a curious pick, but
yeah,
hey, he's got it on his resume. You can't take it from him.
That he does. I'm going to go Trubisky just because he's made the playoffs as a starting quarterback, and he's got his issues. I'll give him that. You would probably be aware of this being from Chicago, but so I get why you didn't go with Trubisky, but I'm going to say Trubisky for me. He's probably the best backup for any of these teams currently.
He should be. I mean,
he should be. Okay, there
number
you go.
2.
That's fair.
Should be the best backup.
He should be the best starter for somebody. You know what I mean? As a number 2 overall pick
for the team that drafted him. But
yeah. You digress on that one, right? Yeah,
I digress.
All right, here we go. Here's another good question here from Christopher 11. Hey, fellas, do you even see a weakness on this team? Seems like they're hitting on all cylinders. You got anything, Pay? What's a weakness? Something to be wary of for this Pittsburgh Steelers team in 2023?
I don't. Well, again, let's rewind back to last season. There were some glaring issues. Run defense was one. And I think that, and just consistent offensive play, especially in the first half of the season.
Yeah.
Going into this season, I don't expect either one of those to be an issue, at least a large issue, which you can get picked on for about. I believe with TJ Watt back healthy, with the upgrade at the linebacker room, the further maturation from Kenny Pickett, George Pickens, and the rest of offense. Pat Freiermuth is back healthy. I can't point into one specific area where I expect the team to be, lacking, at least from what we've seen coming from last season. Yeah. Everything looks at this point to be at the top point, at the top part of their game, where you want it to be in August. Going into the season, obviously that can change after, actually games start happening.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I'm going to say if I had to throw out just one thing that I would be wary of as Steelers fans, it's maybe it's hard to put your finger on any one thing, but it could still be the inside linebackers as far as coverage goes. The Bills, if they did one thing well in that game, is they kind of worked the middle of the field a little bit and picked on some of the linebackers until Cole Holcomb tipped the ball in the red zone. Things got tight, and maybe it's going to be some open field giving up yardage in the passing game over the middle. They're going to have to work on that a little bit, but I still think that once you get down to the red area, once you get down on the Steelers side of the field when they're playing defense, they're going to tighten things up and make it difficult to score a lot of points. So they may give up some yards this season. I struggle to see them giving up a ton of points and a ton of points off big plays. Even I really don't see that, but they might give up some chunks underneath a little bit here and there to let teams move up and down the field. Like maybe we saw in 2019 a little bit, when the Steelers were actually shutting people down in the run game, losing a couple first downs on some third down conversions, longer plays up the middle of the field. But once they got into scoring range, it was no more, a little bend and don't break defense. So I could see that maybe potentially being an issue, but nothing really stands out as a super big issue for this team. Anything else come to mind for you, Pay there?
No, I mean, again, at this point of the off season, everything is all roses. You've had a very good off season. I can't even stress that enough. You've made a number of home run additions in free agency, and great players just fell to you in the draft. I can't imagine calling anything a glaring weakness at this point. We have to see how the games roll once September hits.
I agree with you 100%. I was making a comment to a friend of mine that I couldn't believe. by the end of this year, there's going to be a bunch of teams out there saying, man, I can't believe we passed up on this guy to Pittsburgh of all places. Mm-hmm. I think of Nick Herbig. I think of Darnell Washington. They're going to be big pieces on this team. Joey Porter Jr. as well. If he turns into a lockdown corner by the end of the year, a lot of teams are going to be wondering why they let him slip out of the first round. So there's going to be some questions to be asked, and maybe the Steelers have some regrets themselves at the end of the year. We don't know at this point, but it does look to be very promising so far. Let's answer one more question here before we go to our little break on the audio side. A good one from Afton. Which cornerbacks do you think should make the 53? It's going to be tight, maybe near the back end, but Pay, do you have a clear cut, maybe 4 or 5 that definitely are going to make the roster?
Let me see. Let's run down. We are obviously, you got Pat Peterson, JPJ. That's 2. I think the Steelers are going to carry 6 DBs, maybe 6 corners rather. 6
corners, okay.
So those 2 are locks. You got. Let's see.
Got Levi Wallace. He's definitely making this team.
Levi is another one. Levi's okay. Those 3, I think those are your starters in quotation marks.
Sure.
You're gonna run 3 center corners out there for most of the game anyway. So those are your starters. Outside of that, you're probably going to have a little bit more wary. I'm blanking on some names. Let's think.
I got it right up in front of me. I got James Pierre. I think he makes this team, especially after the Corey Trice injury. I think he's still on
the contract, right?
Yeah. He's been out there. He's looked pretty good. I mean, he's not an aggressive cover corner. Oftentimes, if he'll let the ball land at a wide receiver and then go make the tackle. So he's not going to be making big time plays, but I think still he's a guy that, especially in zone coverage, can offer you a good bit of experience and kind of an insurance policy back there as your CB4, especially with Corey Trice down. You've got guys like
Sutton.
I'm sorry?
No, Sutton went to the Lions.
Sutton's gone to the Lions. Yeah, you got Shandon Sullivan, who projects as a slot corner. Right. I like him. And then I guess the other guy might be Luke Barku. There's been some good things out of him, but he's fringe roster player as well. So I'm gonna say you probably end up with another thing will depend on what they list Elijah Riley as, and I know he's listed as a safety right now, but he can play some slot corner, so they might even keep only 5 corners pay potentially this year, true corners, and then have a couple safeties that can work down into the slot.
I have a question, just to, I guess, segue out of this one. Where are you seeing who's ahead so far between Sullivan and Joey Porter?
Oh, it's definitely Joey Porter.
Definitely.
And I think that it's definitely true after the Bills game. So, and I think they're going to be asked to play 2 different roles on the team as well. So, competition wise, maybe not something that the 2 dogs, 1 bone type thing for them, like Mike Tomlin likes to say. So, JPJ has definitely been more physical. And he struggled maybe with tackling, but Sullivan has struggled with some tackling as well in camp. So I'd say they kind of even out there. But as far as physicality and coverage, sticking with your man and being able to play outside against wide receiver ones, that's been Joey Porter Jr., and he's looked much better than Sullivan in that regard, although Sullivan has shown some decent play on the inside. Absolutely. Let's see here. We're going to take a quick break. On the audio side, here watching live, we're not going anywhere. We're sticking around, and we're going to talk some more Steelers football and answer more of your questions here on the Steelers Sunday Night Q&A. Don't go anywhere. All right, welcome back to the Steelers Sunday Night Q&A. We're still here. It's Jeremy Betts. It's Pay talking some Steelers football, Steelers preseason ball, and looking forward to a regular season that has just gotten a lot more interesting based on what we've seen in the preseason so far. So we're answering your questions here. Keep sending those in. Thank you to everyone who is a part of the live feed right now, whether you're watching on YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook. You can comment, and we will talk with you and answer your questions as well. Pay, I'm going to go ahead and throw up another question here, kind of along the lines of some of the things that we've talked about already in regards to the secondary. This is a question from Gavin Anthony, and it says, if JPJ is starting, then would we move Pat Pete to safety? Go ahead and answer this one, Pay, and then I'll give my thoughts on this one as well.
I think that's an automatic yes.
Okay.
For two different reasons. One, it's time for Pat Pete at this point in his career. This is what corners do. You saw it with the greatest corner in Steeler history, Rod Woodson. At a certain point, you move to safety. So if the guy you drafted number 32 overall makes that leap as automatic starter, of course, Pat Pete's not here for the long run. Joey Porter Jr. is. You move.
I struggle saying that name as well. It's tough.
You definitely move him to safety.
Yeah,
that's an easy call, and I don't think he have a problem with it. He's a good vet, good guy to have in the locker room. He'll move to safety and let the young guy do his thing on the side of the ball, on the sidelines.
Yeah, I think it's definitely an option. And I'll say this, I think the first thing they probably do is move him inside to slot corner in 3 cornerback rotations. But as far as keeping him on the field, there's a lot of options. He can jump back into your free safety role if you want Minkah Fitzpatrick to jump up in the box a little bit and play some up front and maybe jump into that robber role that he's so good at, and dropping somebody deeper, especially if Keanu Neal struggles a little bit and shows his age to a point as well. And the physical style of play that he has, maybe he's been beat up. He hasn't been available a lot in training camp and for preseason games. So that's something to keep an eye on here. But having a guy like Patrick Peterson who can and is willing to potentially drop back to safety, that's huge for the Steelers and gives Tomlin and company a lot of flexibility. We don't talk about Terrell Austin enough as Steelers Nation, I don't think, and what he does with the secondary and the disguises he uses, the ability to manipulate personnel by putting different groupings on the field and being able to take away certain aspects of the offense that you wouldn't be able to if you just ran out the same 5 guys on the back end every time. So it's going to be very interesting how it all plays out. But I think Terrell Austin is really a genius and really accustomed to setting up his players for success on the back end, maybe more so than some of the other defensive coordinators that have come before him because of his experience back there. So yeah, I definitely agree. This could be a good move potentially for Patrick Peterson. If that were to end up being the case, let me pull this up here as kind of a comment on that. They could have an awesome rotation with KZ and Pat P switching to safety because he said he'd do it. Pat P is willing. He just wants to play football and be a contributor. And, maybe with a loss of step a little bit. And I think he's still got his long speed, but that quickness might be where the issue is. Maybe he can take over some games from a safety position and make plays on footballs. Could be a real bright spot.
Yeah, he's got the what do you call it? He's got the necessary ball skills.
Yeah, absolutely.
Somebody like that who's probably going to be in Canton one day. He's got the necessary ball skills. He can see the play develop from 15 yards back and make dynamic plays on the ball. He's done it. He's proven it from the quick twitch side his whole career. Yeah, just being on the right side of the quarter on the field rather. Yeah, so if you put him 15 yards back, I think he can mess around and extend his career another 5 years and probably have another Hall of Famer career.
Let me say this too: the way the Steelers play defense, it starts up front, right? They're gonna attack you and cause havoc in the backfield, and hopefully cause some quarterbacks to make some serious dire mistakes, like we saw in Week 1 last year against Joe Burrow, a consensus top 3 quarterback in this league who looked less than pedestrian against that Steelers defense for the majority of that game, and it was all because that front 7 was relentless and would not stop. So yeah, get as many of these guys who can catch balls and have ball skills on defense in the secondary. I think that's kind of the play that the Steelers made this offseason. and get that turnover machine rolling again, that takeaway machine rolling again this year, could be huge for the Steelers for sure. Let's jump to another question here. Moving to the offensive side of the ball, a very good question, and based on Saturday's preseason action, one that may have a different answer than what we've been talking about. But Mark Tobin says, are you guys satisfied with the run game? Still don't feel good about it. I like the 62-yarder by Warren, but it seems like we still have to rely on the passing game. Pay, this is going to be a topic of discussion because what the Steelers tried to do this offseason was upgrade the offensive line, put some big bodies up there, and it looks like they're going to try to ride Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren to success on the ground. Are you concerned about that, or do you think this 1-2 punch can get it done?
Well, I'm not going to tell you that I don't have my concerns about the Pittsburgh offense being able to run the ball with, an amount of success that the other guys in the division can do, namely Baltimore, namely Cleveland. Najee Harris, I think let me look it up. I know last season he averaged under 4 yards a carry, just 1,000 yards. I think the year before that, both years for his career, under 4 yards a carry.
Yeah.
And if you add Jaylen Warren to me, he does look to have a little bit more bounce in his step, a little more juice, a little more what do you say? A little more shiftiness. If it reminds you a little bit of how the Cowboys backfield looked a little bit last year. I mean, that's a great question. You want to see it. You want to see it to believe it. It does look a little plodding at times from Najee, but Najee's one of those guys who he doesn't have to come off the field. He can catch, he can block, he can run, but you still want to have a little bit more belief that he can at least move the chains. So I agree with the question. That is the one split. That's the one spot on offense. In fact, maybe one spot on the whole team that you made I don't know. I got to see it.
If I'm the Steelers and Mike Tomlin specifically, Matt Canada on the offensive side of the ball, I'm going to sprinkle in a lot of Jaylen Warren early in football games because that's where you get that spark. That's where you get maybe some big plays to happen. And then, once the team's worn down a little bit, that's when you put Najee Harris in. Late third and fourth quarter, if you've got a lead especially, that's when you put the battering ram back there and just let them go to town on people because they're tired. They've been pushed around all day, hopefully by a very physical, powerful offensive line. And, maybe most first halves look like a solid 50-50 split between Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. Hopefully you play to their lightning and thunder aspect a little bit there. And then you ride thunder home in the second half. So if I'm the personnel guy setting up the game plan, that's what I'm going to do. And, both of the guys can catch. And so you really like that. They can both block really well. So you're comfortable if you're Kenny Pickett with either one on the field on third down. So that's to your advantage as well. But I think if you had to rely on just Najee Harris, then I don't know how well this goes. But since you have both guys, Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren back there, tag teaming this up, I think it can be really good. And I am not too overly concerned about it because you're not asking Najee Harris to run you 62-yard touchdowns. That's what you want to see out of Jaylen Warren. Najee Harris, you're asking to turn out some tough yards, get you first downs, and maybe he's more of a role player than necessarily a do-it-all back like maybe the Steelers were hoping they got in the 2021 draft. But you can make it work in this offense, I believe.
Right.
Yeah, so we'll see how it all turns out. Let's see. Okay, we talked about this a little bit. Steely McBeeman, who do you think roster chances hinge on in this game against the Falcons? I'm going to throw a guy out there. I think it is Cody White, like we mentioned before. I think he still has a chance at this roster, but I think he needs a good game, maybe a score, a big play of some kind to make this roster. I think he's a practice squad guy, no doubt about it. if he doesn't make the actual 53, but his chances on the 53 hinge here. Outside of that, if you're looking at the defensive line, I think Montravius Adams might need himself a game where he stands out in Atlanta. And because there's guys gunning for his job as the nose tackle, backup nose tackle, whatever it's going to be. Keanu Benton looks great. And when he's healthy, he's looked fantastic. So he's going to keep ascending. And then you've got Braden Fehoko, who looks really good as at nose tackle as well. He's a little bit better run stuffer and a two-gapper, if you will. So Montravius Adams needs himself a game to make this 53, I think, because he basically has one job, and that's to be nose tackle. That's what the Steelers have asked him to do so far. So anybody else stand out to you, Pay, or just kind of what we talked about earlier?
I think you hit it all on the head. Maybe we did talk about earlier how maybe the wide receiver room may get cut down a little bit. It looks like I don't think the Steelers will carry, 6+ guys in that position. You said did you say Miles Boykin?
I think he makes the team as the wide receiver 5 behind Calvin Austin because of his special teams prowess. I
don't think he gets cut, but I mean, I do have him he's not solidified. There's another player, Dez, I think his name is Dez Fitz. And maybe Gunner. Other than that, those are the guys that come to mind who maybe may need another good game, save themselves from the practice squad.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get to another question here. Steely McBeeman asks again, how long do you think it'll be before Keanu Benton is the starter in the middle? I think right away. I think pretty much right away he's going to be the starter, but I could be wrong there. I think he has proven, though, to be their best option as part of the if you're looking at the best front three that the Steelers have to offer in their base 3-4, if you will, it's Cam, it's Keanu Benton, and then it's Larry Ogunjobi. I think that's the best 3, but there's going to be a lot of rotation outside of Cam and Ogunjobi. There's going to be a lot of rotation with those guys too to keep them fresh, but I think at nose tackle specifically, the third guy on the defensive line, it's not just going to be one guy. It's going to be an army, if you will. But do you feel like the Steelers like Benton enough to go ahead and throw him into the fire early?
I think they do, actually. I hear his name a lot.
Yeah.
Starting to throw him into the fire early, it all depends on how September rolls. And I don't think Pittsburgh will have a very tough September. But I can see the situation happens when they throw him out there. I mean, I don't think, again, they like him. They like him. So I can definitely see the situation arise where they say, you know what, go ahead and get out there, and I don't think we're gonna pull you out.
Yeah. I think that they would love for him to just kind of take it, and prove that he's good enough to just own that role. And then seeing what Cam Hayward tries to do after this year, you never know. He could decide to hang up the cleats after this year. I don't necessarily believe that he will, unless maybe the Steelers win the Super Bowl this year. Maybe then he decides to. But I think he's planning on coming back for 2024 to be a part of a potential championship push there as well. But outside of that, I think Keanu Benton's the future at the other 3 tech. Once Cam decides to hang it up, at least that would be the plan. Him or DeMarvin Leal kind of taking over those spots as the long-term options for Pittsburgh. But I think they would love to see him just kind of grasp hold of a starting position, to your point, as soon as he can. So let's take a look at the other side of the Steelers week 1 matchup here against the San Francisco 49ers. Vinny Aguakun asks, do you think Nick Bosa's holdout ends near the last minute and he plays week 1 like TJ did a couple years ago? This seems to be a pretty plausible scenario here. And I know San Francisco is going to want him on the field. and he's worth whatever contract you give him because he's that good. Do you think this little situation that's been flying under the radar amidst quarterback struggles or issues in San Francisco, do you think that this issue gets resolved for a big week 1 matchup?
I don't think San Francisco has a history of playing hardball with their stars.
Yeah.
When it comes to contract negotiations. And I think we all understand that San Francisco is in a win now situation. And they understand Nick Bosa's value that he brings. He's playing a premier position. I think they're going to come to an agreement. I definitely don't foresee Nick Bosa holding out into the regular season. So to answer the question, I expect to see him on the field.
Yeah,
week 1.
I agree with you there. Here's a kind of a follow-up from Vinny, and I'm going to answer this one emphatically. Do you think Bosa has the type of game Watt did against the Bills week 1, 2021? No, because he's not TJ Watt. That's the answer. TJ Watt's better. TJ Watt is the man. Nick Bosa's a wannabe. I'm just kidding. The defensive player of the year last year. I think he'll be an impactful player for sure, but I think TJ's impact on the Steelers defense is just next level. No other defensive player really matches it, maybe outside of Aaron Donald.
I don't think so. He's arguably the best player in the league. Yeah. TJ Watt is the Steelers, if the TJ Watt was healthy last year, Steelers season is completely different.
Yeah.
Completely different. That's how important he is.
Yeah. That's a playoff team for sure last year.
Oh,
they're going to win one of the games that they went on a skid on in the middle of the season if TJ Watt's there. At least one, right?
You started the season 1-6, 2-6, something like that.
2-7, I think, is what.
2-7,
something like that. Yeah. No, 2-6. Yeah. Sorry.
2-6.
Yeah.
Like you said, two of those games flip if TJ's out there.
Yeah, I agree. 100% agree. All right, let's throw this up. I think so. Will Kendrick Green be cut? I think he will be. I think he's been pretty bad. Let's talk about this. Didn't even think about this guy when talking about the does a player's chances of making the 53 ride on Atlanta in preseason week 3? I think Kendrick Green, this is a terrible oversight by me. I think Kendrick Green, his career with the Steelers absolutely rides on this week. I don't know if he makes this roster, if he doesn't have somewhat of a bounce back performance against the Falcons. Mistiming, it wasn't all his fault probably, but mistiming on the snap with Mason Rudolph this last week almost turns into a turnover. And then, his blocking, it just leaves so much to be desired. But Pay, do you think he makes this team? Does his pseudo fullback role that the Steelers are trying him out save him, or does he need to make this team as an offensive lineman first to get a chance at doing that?
I think the offensive line is set. So if he's struggling as a fullback, it's pretty much in stone, to be honest with you. You got 9 days to first cuts. So as you said, he has to have a bang out game versus Atlanta to save his job.
Yeah.
Doesn't, you don't have any other times to prove your worth. At that point, you practice squad or some other team at that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. He's had his opportunities. I mean, he started a whole year basically, right? With Ben Roethlisberger under center, and it was a disaster. And then the next year they tried him everywhere. They let him try center. They let him try guard. Disaster. And this year they're throwing him back at center. So far, disaster. The only thing he's looked good at is fullback, and the Steelers aren't saving him a roster spot just to play fullback for this team. They've got other guys who can handle that, and I don't think they're going to be a lot of 21, 22 personnel anyway, where you got two backs in the backfield. So if anything, it's Connor Hayward coming in motion to an H-back situation. It's Darnell Washington in that kind of role, but not Kendrick Green off the bench without playing backup center for this team.
Exactly.
No doubt about it to me. So, all right, let's see. I'm trying to see if there's any other questions here. Oh, this is a good one. If the Steelers do end up with more of a 50-50 split, or if maybe they go Jaylen Warren because Najee's not performing up to specs here, will Najee accept his role from Shaka Steele? What do you think, Pay? Is Najee a team first player?
I like to believe he is a team first player, but as far as will he accept a reduced role for the team to win? Let's talk about that for a second. It's been an interesting offseason for running backs.
Yeah.
Najee is coming up on the time where he's looking to get paid. I do not think he would appreciate you telling him like, okay, now we're gonna cut into your bonus money.
Yeah.
Just for the betterment of the team. I don't think he would appreciate that at all. He's got 2 back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. I mean, you like to think the best. I'm like, I believe the guy is a team first guy. He wants to win. He's a locker room. He's a locker room guy. But money talks. BS walks.
Yeah.
You got it. That's a cool thing to ask somebody.
Yeah, it is. I think we're underestimating the fact that, for all intents and purposes, this is a contract year for Najee Harris too. I mean, the team's going to make a decision on his 5th-year option at the end of the season, and the way running backs get paid these days, you want that 5th-year option. you want to earn that 5th-year option. He's going to need to play. He's going to need to play hard, and so considering that, I think he plays hard, and I think he shows out, and I think you should draft him in fantasy in the 3rd round.
That's a declaration. But it's definitely a contract year. Definitely the year that you expect him to have his blow up. No other reason not to. If he has another Najee year, which again are not bad years, but are they elite years? Would not say that at all. Not averaging 3.7 yards per carry.
Yeah,
but again, that's tough. That's a tough thing to ask a 3rd-year back. Like, hey, you got to go into a share when he's been getting 300 carries his whole career.
Yeah, he had 400 plus touches as a rookie.
That's tough.
That's crazy. Yeah, it is. Well, hey, it's been real, man. So glad you were able to hop on after a flight, no less. This dude's working, putting in overtime. So, how about that?
Knock my camera down. Sorry.
You're good. So thank you, Pay, for hopping on. Tell us anything you got coming up. Tell us what to look forward to on the Homies podcast. If you know what's going on, and we look forward to seeing you next on what's coming up. So tell us what's coming up.
I appreciate the invite there, Jabets. Always a pleasure. And everybody, don't miss the Homies Pod live every Friday on Facebook and YouTube. Dropping audios on Saturday morning. We have a lot of good fun, talk a lot of good AFC North content. I give you the Ravens perspective, the Ravens Report, # Ravens Report. My buddies, Tate and Big G, they got their bias. They're gonna give you all the Steelers news notes. They're gonna tell you how they're going. G is giving you up something special. He's trying to make an argument how the Steelers can go 14-3 this year. He's putting it together. So coming soon. Get ready for it.
Okay. Good deal.
Also, B Dirt coming with the Cincinnati report, running through the jungle. He got his own pod. Oh, it's a great listen. Check it out. Download everywhere, and be on the lookout for me and B Dirt's new pod starting up soon. Pay Dirt. We'll be talking college football and football gambling from a gambling perspective.
Hey, there you go. Absolutely check all that out. And spoiler alert, I'm going to be having Big G on the Steelers Sunday night Q&A next week. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, thank you once again. Thank you to all of you guys in the live chat. You're the reason we're here. Keep it coming. Always good to talk with you. We'll see you next Sunday on the Steelers Sunday night Q&A.